Welcome back to Laura Gets Real About Life. Didn't have time for a video last week. It was pretty crazy with Halloween and kids and school and life. But that's real life. So today, what I want to talk about is marriage. Mine and my husband's wedding anniversary is this Wednesday. We have been married 4 years, which I know is a drop in the pond to some of the older couples out there, and it's rare to see these long marriages anymore, so it's always wonderful when we pass by and see couples that have been married for so long. My parents are one of them. They've been married, I think it's over 40. It's either 40 years this year or over 40 years. So that's awesome to put up with someone that long. But what I want to talk about specifically is when a lot of people get married, myself included, you have this vision of what in your mind marriage will be like, what the wedding will be like, what the daily life will be like. You're going to grow old together and sit on the porch together, or whatever, you picture your marriage lifelong to be. Unfortunately, everyone has different expectations. So when I got married, I kind of expected, I'm somewhat controlling, some may say, or OCD, or I like to look at it as I'm a planner. So I make plans, and sometimes I don't include others in my plan, and then they have plans, and so that makes it difficult when those plans don't align. So it's important to just keep in mind that the whole point of marriage is joining two people who most likely were raised completely different. And so you have to really allow some grace between you and your spouse, because I was raised in Ohio. My parents are from West Virginia. I was raised in a Christian home, and there were certain expectations that were expected of me as a child. I grew up with a very maybe conservative childhood to some. My husband, his mom was divorced, and her husband, that's who my husband refers to as his dad, because that is the man who was there and was raising him. And him and my mother-in-law did a wonderful job raising my husband, and I'm a little biased. But he's a good man, and he is a good person and a good friend. That's actually when we met. We were just friends, and he really looked out for me and my two older children from my first marriage. And I didn't have money for diapers one day, and he was like, here's some money for diapers. Not that I was asking, because I was not asking for a handout. But he just offered, and he was like, if you need anything else for either of them, please let me know. And that just really stuck in my mind, because people just don't do that anymore for people they've just met or just their friends or something. A lot of people don't do that. They don't take it upon themselves to make other people's issues their concern. And it's not just that. There are other situations that my husband does that for. He will stop on the side of the road to help somebody change a tire. He will help somebody move with, not asking for money for it. He just goes over and volunteers to help people move. He will offer to babysit kids. He will offer to fix somebody's car. He is eager to serve. He likes to help other people. And that is a wonderful trait. Unfortunately, sometimes these things he volunteers for may, line up with something I had planned for the kids, or, something like that. And so we really just have to look at the bigger picture and come to a compromise on things like, okay, well, you volunteered to do this, so when you get done, then we can go do what I need to do, or I can take the kids and go do what I need to do while you're doing this. But marriage really is not the wedding. The wedding is a wonderful part of marriage, but that's one day of the rest of your life. One day. And people get so tied up in that. The dresses and the money and the cake and the guests and the party and all that. And that's great. I mean, if that's what your priority is. But, you know, marriage is hard. Last week, specifically, I'll give you an example. I have some anxiety. It tends to get worse towards the end of my pregnancies, just because there's just so much change going on and I like to be in control. And unfortunately, life has this way of just kind of kicking you while you're down. And so I was in the middle of an anxiety panic attack, and I was crying, and I came to bed and I was just laying in bed and I'm just upset. And he's like, you know, what's going on? Why are you upset? I'm like, the older kids are acting crazy at school and at home, and the babies just cry all the time, and they, you know, everything. It was just, that day was just so overwhelming. And I'm like, school is going on, and your hours are going to pick up with work, and the baby's about to come, and we don't have everything ready. Not about to, we still have 8 weeks, but still, I mean, you know, we have things we need to get done, money, you know, finance struggles, and there's just so much at any given time. And instead of him allowing me to just continue in a panic, he takes my hand on the pillow and is holding my hand, and he's like, you need to calm down. He said, for one, we don't know where your inhaler is. Which is true. When I get into a laughing fit or even a panic attack, my asthma really kicks in high gear, and I have 3 inhalers, and we have no idea where any of them are, which is a terrible thing. But just in that moment, that little comment was enough to just kind of like, okay, I need to just take a breath. And then he's like, and, you know, we can only control what we can control. So there's no need to stress and panic about things, because stressing and panicking about it is not going to change it. So, but in that moment, I just needed to just breathe and just get out what was bothering me. And he's like, you know, the kids aren't going to be like this forever. Today was a really hard day. Everybody's in bed now. Like, we're going to start over tomorrow. Yeah, the baby's coming, and we've had 2 back to back, and they're just fine. They're healthy. They are thriving. They are wild. But that's just boys being boys. And so in that moment, that was huge for me, because I needed a friend. I needed my husband to just listen for a minute. And he did. And I still was crying and upset, but he just laid there and just held my hand. It was after 7 o'clock. He gets up at 11 o'clock at night to go to work. He was not worried about what time it was. He was worried about, was I okay? You know, what did I need in that moment? And that's just one of those things that you don't picture from the beginning when you think of marriage. You don't think of the stressful, hard days that you're going to have. Hard days at work, hard days at school, hard days even as a stay-at-home mom, hard days, you know, handling the kids. Like, it can be so much sometimes. So, you know, as much as we give marriage thought and get excited and all these things, you just have to remember the hard days, those are what make up a marriage. And making it through those hard days together and not against each other. Because there's going to be situations that you're on opposite sides of the fence. But if you really work together and just love your spouse and pray through the situations, I'm not going to get all preachy or anything, but I do think that praying through situations definitely can be a huge help. And maybe just adjusting your mindset. I know that sometimes when I say something, he'll react immediately, but then if he says something, I'll react immediately. But when we really stop and start thinking about what they said, or we allow them the chance to continue their thought instead of just reacting to the very initial thing that they said, it starts to make a lot more sense. Or even sometimes it doesn't, and you're like, no, I still don't, I don't agree. So, I mean, marriage, he's my best friend. Kevin is my best friend. He loves my children more than life itself. And he loves me more than life itself. And I couldn't ask for anything more than that. And it's really important to be best friends with your spouse. Like, it's really important to make them a priority. Even, like, we got married after he had a son. I already had 2 sons. So, some people start their marriage, most people, I don't know about anymore, but typically most people start their marriage and they have no kids. So they have time to date. They have time to, buy a house, time to do whatever they want to do for a little while before they have kids. With us, we jumped right in it, and from the beginning had 3. And now we're expecting number 6. So we never had that alone time and, bonding time with each other, but we've still made a way, because of our friendship before getting married. We'll find ourselves just cracking up, and we're just like, I love you. It's just sometimes just some of those days that are hard, you just have to laugh it off. And you just have to really get through it. So there are good days, don't get me wrong. There are wonderful days. But more often than not, there are hard days. There'll be arguments, there'll be fights, there'll be snapping back and forth, sarcasm. That's one of our biggest things, is we're both very sarcastic. And sarcasm is one of the worst things for marriage. But for us, it works. So other people find us pretty amusing most of the time. So when we're going back and forth at each other. But at the end of the day, we know how much we mean to each other and how much we love each other and how much our family means. And that's really what's important. So I really just wanted to touch in with you guys. And since our anniversary will be Wednesday, I really wanted to talk about marriage. And just kind of give you guys like a real, as much as we're excited to celebrate 4 years of being together, we've gone through a lot in 4 years that a lot of people don't deal with. And I know that a lot of people probably say that, but people who know us understand what I'm talking about. We have things going on with co-parenting, and good and bad on both sides. We have things going on with school and work and kids and buying a house and just life. And that's just what marriage is, making it through every day. And still loving your spouse at the end of that day. So some days you may not like your spouse, but as long as you still love them at the end of the day, you will see it's so worth it to make your spouse a priority and your family a priority. So I hope you all have a great week, and check out my other videos, subscribe. I really appreciate all the views I've been getting. I know my first video is up to 72 views, so that's awesome. I'm really excited. So just hang in there, and I will be back with you guys hopefully next week. Have a good one.